So thank you. I just started sort of alluding to that a moment ago and said I did not include that in my application, but I have, since submitting this, engaged Virginia Power, Ryan Glover, and do have a proposal from him to relocate that to the back of the building. It does require an easement from the Sadlers as well as Arvid Christensen, because I think it sort of clips the corner of their property. It's already encumbered with a lot of easements back there, so I don't know why they would have an issue with that, but it's sort of out of my control until I have that. But I would imagine that you all would be supportive of the meter disappearing from the front of the building and moving to the back.
I see a lot of supportive looks around the board, so we wish you good luck on that project of getting that easement.
And just to be clear, in an effort just to clean up the facade, it should be noted that probably is going to end up costing the owner about $4,000 just to do that. So, I just want to mention that for what it's worth, that's not an inexpensive or free thing.
Appreciate that. I think we definitely always appreciate when business owners are working hard to actually improve our ability to appreciate our historic fabric. So thank you. Okay, so we're done now with the pieces.
Yes, ma'am.
Of this application. Okay, so I'm going to suggest to the board maybe we tick off some that might be fairly simple, like repointing the brick, the sign, maybe the lighting, sort of maybe working in that way, repointing the sign, the lighting, the ramp, because I think when we get, I'm suspecting the one, I may be wrong, but stop me if I'm wrong, anybody, that we're going to have the most discussion about is whether this door gets this window and door conversion.
So I'm sorry. Ahead. I have one question about the lighting before we move on and kind of group all that together. I'm just trying to understand the bracket with the sign. The lights are attached to the bracket and they shine on the sign. Is that right?
That is correct. That's how we've done it in the past.
Okay. And then when you talk about the glow of the sleek lights, are we talking about the same level of lighting across the board for the gas light? I mean, are we looking at the same, I don't know how to describe this, but is it the same kind of lighting? Is it going to be a different glow here and a brighter glow there? You know what I'm saying?
I'm hearing two different things. I'm hearing lumens and I'm hearing color temperature. So I'm not sure exactly what you're referring to.
Is the light going to look the same regardless of the fixture?
I can't answer your question with regard to the open flame compared to a bulb, but if your question is picking lamps for the fixtures that would complement color temperature, I think the answer to that is yes, that's possible. If the question is trying to make sure that they put out similar lumens, I think that the sign is a little independent of the low profile lights at the doors, but we could certainly work hard to make sure they work harmoniously together.
Okay, I was just trying to understand those things about the lights. Thanks so much.
Sure.
And Julie, I don't think I'm not suggesting we wrap the lights into these things. I'm sort of thinking we move in kind of the order of maybe possibly easiest to decide to a more difficult. So like maybe we could separate out and vote on repointing, then we could separate out and vote on the sign, separate out and vote on, and sort of move in this way, taking each sort of category separately, but just clearing some that we probably don't need to discuss at greater length. And so I'm asking if that method of proceeding works.
I'm good with that. I just wanted to make sure I understood the lighting.
Yeah, no, I hear you. And I do think there's a little more discussion on the lighting maybe to happen.
Should we talk about maybe, before we get back into the details about the whole gestalt, because all these things kind of work together. Instead of just clicking off the things, maybe we should just talk about how all this works together. And maybe it's just me making having a question about the whole.
I guess so. So I guess what I would say is I still think the whole is there, but some things would we would be
Right.
likely
Sure.
to find
Yeah.
sort of less central to the whole, like repointing the brick if it's done in accordance with the
Right.
Secretary's standards and
Right.
suggestions and our
Got
own guidelines, is just we could argue that's a repair that needs to be done.
Right. Sure.
And so I feel like maybe that's less of a just gestalt kind
Right.
of question.
Right.
And the sign, sort of a projecting sign, like we just decided another projecting sign. So I wonder if this one might also be one that's, and this is a projecting sign that matches an existing projecting sign in town. So it's not even a question of like materials or anything like that haven't been approved, because we have approved a similar thing. So I'm just thinking about a couple of things like that, precisely, Arthur, with the hope of then freeing us up to
Right.
get to the sort of question about things like lighting, roof doors that maybe have a bigger effect
Mhm.
on our experience of the building. Is that a satisfying?
Sure. That's fine. Let's go that way. That's fine.
Okay, so if everybody's okay with that, I would propose we start with the repointing of the brick.
Mhm. They did a great job on repointing the back of the building. It looks terrific. So I think there's no question that it makes sense to, I mean, it'd be wonderful to repoint the front and get that all in order.
Would we consider that a motion to accept the proposal?
Yeah.
Okay. Is there a second for that motion?
Second.
All right. Okay, great. And is there any discussion? Great. So then so on the application to repoint the brick, we're going to accept that, or we're going to vote on that. Sorry. We have a motion to accept that. And we will vote once again. Just by the way, I can see people on here. I'll try to do it alphabetically this time, though it's not that easy. Caroline.
Approve.
Arthur.
Approve.
Julie.
Approved.
I vote to approve. And Elizabeth.
Approve.
Okay, great. So that's that part is done. What about, would people be comfortable voting on the projecting sign? Or
Yes.
Okay, Julie, would you be comfortable making a motion on that?
I move that we approve the hanging sign as presented.
Okay, do I have a second?
I'll second.
All right, great. Is there any further discussion of that motion? Okay, then we'll be voting once again by roll call vote, starting with you, Caroline.
Approve.
Okay, Arthur,
Yes.
Julie,
Approve.
I vote to approve. Elizabeth.
Approve.
Okay, excellent. And then I wonder if we are comfortable with the brick ramp as presented, or if we would consider that back to the sort of larger overall qualities of the building. I'm pretty comfortable with it, because I feel like no matter what project happens in this building, a level entrance will be required. And given the grade here, it might actually just end up looking like it's tightening up the brick as it is at the moment. It's kind of a mess over there behind that bench. But if others are less comfortable with that, I won't move ahead.
Yeah,
I'm fine with it.
I assume that that when you do this, you'll be reworking the brick on that edge and make the brick so that it's consistent with the brick in the part of the property that you mentioned was now city property.
Yes, I think we would do everything in our power to have a harmonious connection. Of course, all the brick in there is pretty messy, but we would certainly improve the current condition, I assure you.
Right, you'd use a brick that would be a hand press looking brick instead of a machine cut brick so that
Mm.
it's consistent with the historic brick. And the railing would also, I would assume that you'd use a traditional style railing instead of just a pipe railing, or, you know, something that would.
There's actually a picture of both the brick and the rail with my summary that was presented under item number 8. The brick, and I'm splitting hairs with you here a little bit, but it's a wood mold versus a handmade. But yes, it sort of looks traditional and old, but is
Right.
dense enough to hold up. And then the rail has just got 2 horizontal members. It's about as sleek and as nice and as low profile as can be. And it's just got a nice little contour on the top.
Right. Is that in this application? Arnie?
Yeah. So, Bonnie, if you can scroll up, whoever's controlling keep going to, there we go. So this actually exists because it's part of the Other Georges project in town.
Right.
So it's not, we're not like referencing, we don't have to imagine it. It exists.
Right. Good.
So is somebody comfortable making a motion on that?
I move that we accept the ramp as presented.
Do I have a second?
I'll second. Oh.
Okay. And do we have any further discussion on that? All right, great. Then I'm going to do the roll call vote again. Caroline,
Approve.
Arthur,
Approve.
Julie,
Approve.
I vote to approve, and Elizabeth.
Approve.
Okay, great. So now I would think that we're at sort of 3 kinds of categories of questions. One is lighting. One is the roof, and then the other is the doors, which involve both the color of the doors and the potential replacement of what's now a window with a windowed door. And I am open to thoughts about the order we should take those in. Maybe it makes sense to sort of work from the roof, which is going to need a replacement anyway, and then toward the doors, and then back to the lights.
Arnie,
Does that
can you
make
go
sense?
back to the elevation? Thank you. Of the, proposed.
Go ahead, Arthur. What do you have some concerns or perspectives here you want to share?
Oh, are we just talking about the roof, or are we talking?
Well, if everybody's okay, I think I would say let's start with the roof, assuming that almost any project on here is going to need a roof. So that I'm just sort of moving in order of controversy, right?
Mhm.
Potential controversy. And so it seems to me like the roof, like we're being offered a roof that is consistent with the material and style of construction of the existing roof, but a different color. So
Right. Yeah, no, I'm okay with it. I was just struggling a little bit with the with the line as shown on this graphic that makes such a tight edge on the arched door opening, and actually I think that's more conspicuous on this graphic than it would actually be, and I don't see that as being a, and so I was wondering whether the roof should I was thinking that line, if you were to draw that line, it would be nice to make it a little bit to the right of the arched opening, and that might push that roof line over. But I don't. If the wall reads the same, then the roof being shifted over doesn't really matter. So I think that the point you made before, Robin, on the fact that there's a certain amount of interest in the play of not everything being so, perfect here. It's more like a village townhouse grouping where there's a certain amount of variety just built into it. I mean, I think that is making it more appropriate to have the roofs changed. So I'm okay with it.
Okay. Anybody else have thoughts? Do you want to make a motion on that, Arthur?
I would move that we approve the standing seam metal roof painted Sierra tan.
May I just ask one more question before you vote?
Sure.
I think it would be our intention to approach the neighbor, Arvid Christensen, and see if there would be any interest in his part to renew the roof all the way over to Steve Grice building, the Bean Building. Obviously, I can't control that decision, and hopefully, obviously, I'm not interested in paying for his roof. But that said, I think it would really help us clean up the gutter situation as opposed to being attached through the roof. It'd be under the roof. From a construction standpoint, there's no reason that someone couldn't professionally come and renew his roof at a later date. But I think that I just mentioned that for what it's worth, that we will be neighborly, and we will at least ask the question and see if they would have interest in carrying the roof on across. Does that, I would assume, since that's different than what we're asking for here, is it possible to get sort of when I say a split approval, an approval if the roof went all one color all the way across, or if we just did our property? Is that feasible so we wouldn't have to come back to you for that?
That's an interesting question. So I see what you're saying. And if we scroll back up again, y'all will see on the existing building, you can see what that would look like. And for me, actually, that would be, I'm with Arthur, I can tolerate some shifting, but since it looks as if the roof is of a piece now, that would actually be the preferable situation. Only one thing I worry about is approving a change to a property when the owner of that property hasn't come to us as a kind of, that it could be read as a prescription, or I just feel that that's a little bit awkward in terms of relationship there to the fact that that owner has not come to us, even though I can imagine if that owner were to come before us, we might be really excited. And I don't know what you all would think about sort of saying we would waive an application from that owner for the specific purpose of the roof. We could maybe waive a fee, but I feel I don't want to make a decision that says this is what you should do with your property, or that could potentially be read as having said that, which might seem a little bit like splitting hairs. But I don't know. What do some of the rest of y'all think?
I like the idea of waiving the application fee, but when the other owner would come to us, that seems appropriate to me, but that's pretty much it.
That's assuming he comes to us based on this proposal,
Right.
not something different.
Right. It would be like if it was a proposal to, that we would certainly, as a means of sort of demonstrating our openness to this roof being continued in this way, without taking a statement on what the roof, on what we assume the roof is going to be. Does that seem weird to people, or does that seem like a doable?
I think it's doable, even if he comes to us later. If it doesn't happen right now, but he comes to us later and wants to continue the color, I don't have a problem with that.
Same here. It worked before with the Phoenix, obviously, on the project of replacing the roof however many years ago that happened. So I would imagine he'd be open to, to that as a good idea.
So maybe a motion in this case, did we have a motion already? We did not yet have a motion, right? Okay, would be a motion to approve I would say we would do two, just to be clean. One would be to approve the changes to the roof, including the, I think you did make this motion actually, Arthur, you did make a motion.
Yes.
To accept the new roof with the standing seam and the CR tan color. And then maybe we could deal with the other thing as a sort of a second motion to say, should the adjacent property owner want to come to us to get approved for this, for the same change, we would waive the application fee. Those are two motions. So like, what about the first motion? Did we have a second? Did anybody second that? Okay, we need a second.
I'll second.
All right. Any further discussion? All right. And so we'll vote. Caroline?
I approve.
Okay. And Arthur?
Approve.
Julie?
Approve.
And I approve. And Elizabeth?
Approve.
Okay. And do we want to make that second motion saying that we would waive the application fee, or do we want to leave it out there as kind of like we would be interested in doing that, or thoughts?
Can we just have it in the minutes that we would approve that, or
Yeah,
if the owner was
open to
comfortable?
that. Yeah, I think we could do that. Arnie, you're about to have a
Is
thought.
there just a general acceptance of waiving that fee?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, great. All right. Now we're down to doors, door colors, and lights, right? And then after that, we'll be done with this project. Okay. All right. Now I think let's talk some doors, and let's just, because that's what we're going to get a change that.
Robin, can I interject real quick? I'm sorry.
Sure.
Number 2 is the half round gutters, and that sort of ties in with
Oh,
the roof. Is it possible to get that done?
Yeah, I totally forgot about that. Gutters, I think that's yeah. Can we have a motion on gutters?
I'll motion to approve. Is Caroline?
Okay, and a second?
Yes, I second Arthur.
Okay, and if there's no discussion, all right, Caroline,
Approve.
and Arthur,
Approve.
Julie,
Approve.
Elizabeth,
Approve.
and I approve. Thank you. Sorry, Jen, appreciate you. I've got the different screens going. Okay, that means we are now at, and if we can get, Bonnie, if we could come back down to the, thank you, appreciate it. We're now at, what do we think about this? And I'm interested in other people's thoughts about the door, for sure.
I like it better than the original one.
I do too. I actually think this is, given all the rest of the oddities of this building, I really think it's okay. The only question I have is whether the black is so black that it's going to highlight too much the oddities that exist. You know, if it weren't such a heavy black, if it were a lighter black, it might be a little less pronounced.
Just as a point of order, I would tell you that the off black really does sort of go gray black.
Okay.
It is not a harsh black, if that makes sense.
It's not a shiny gloss black.
Correct. It's definitely more in the gray family.
More of a muted black, similar to what we see in this elevation versus what we see in the little color sample that Bonnie could turn to.
Yes, I would agree with that. In practice, I mean, yes, if you saw the doors at both, I keep wanting to say Alexander Withrow and McCampbell, but at the Washington and Marshall, affectionately, you would definitely see that.
Mhm. But Bonnie, keep down to the color sample. There you go. See, that's the black, and on my computer it looks blacker than gray. But
But this is the color we already see on
right.
Haywoods and on Taps, and
Okay.
so yeah, which are grayer actually.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So okay, so from my perspective, more just putting them on the same color is gonna, and maybe in fact the fact that they're not white on that end of the building will kind of mush things together a little bit, you know. Because right now we have that kind of yellowy gold color, and then we have white and peeling white. So I feel like it for me the color change to the black, that in and of itself, first of all, it could always be changed. It's not like sort of painting brick or something like that. And it does offer a possibility of developing some kind of unity there that doesn't undo the reality of the building, but allows a kind of branding. This is our business. This is our space. Because there's also something nice about, even when you have that jumble, like you were talking about, Arthur, of sort of townhouses and different kinds of spaces next to each other. It's also nice when they're kind of all together, but they're also distinct shops or distinct restaurants or something like that. I think can be quite nice. So for me, the color I think is okay. The door is just but the window is already also not evenly balanced there. So I guess a kind of weird thing for me about the door is the transom in a certain sense, although I guess John, is the transom, is that intended to make it match better with the door next to it?
I think that was the design intention, and otherwise you would have a really tall, skinny door.
It'd be weird, yeah. Okay, yeah. So it's just a short, skinny door. But you know, I mean, the building is full of things like that. So, yeah. So, any other questions, thoughts, worries about the doors?
I move that we approve the door as presented. This is very helpful after our last meeting to be able to look across the whole facade and see exactly what it's going to look like. I have no problem here.
Okay. So we have a motion. Do we have a second? And that would that include the colors too?
Yes.
Okay.
That was all. I think that was in item number 6. I thought the color was included. I don't know if we have to do that separately or not.
Yeah, no, we can definitely include it unless anyone has an objection.
Robin, another thought before we move into approval here is relative to the question that you had about the transom. I think one of the things gained by having the transom over the new door is that the line from the window to the transom over the existing door to the transom over the new door is even.
Right. Yeah, you can have a single level across there, right, from the window across the two transoms.
All the way across. If you look across the facade of the other, including Arvid's building, it's consistent.
Yeah, I hear you. That's a nice point.
And if you didn't do that, then this door would seem like a little service door that somebody jammed in there. It gives it a little bit more, I think, reason for being.
I definitely like that it has glass in it as opposed to the wooden option.
Yeah,
All right, we had a motion, but we didn't have a second. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Okay. Is there further discussion? Okay, then I'll just ask for a roll call vote. Caroline,
Approve.
and Arthur,
Approve.
Julie,
Approve.
I'll vote to approve. Elizabeth?
Approve.
All right, great. And that leaves us with lighting. If I'm,
So that was 5 and 3 at the same vote, correct?
yeah, that's the colors of the trim for windows and doors and the new door entrance.
Okay.
So everybody help me out. We're down to lighting now. All right. This is where I have to admit, for me, the mix of the lights on the sign, the lights over the doors, and the gas lantern it's like as if the gas lantern were separate. And this goes back to what you were talking about, Arthur, about sort of just work in the courtyard. Maybe if it were standing separate, but not also attached to the same building, it has all this other stuff going on, I would feel better about it. Right now, I don't feel super great about it. I just feel like there's just a lot of different kinds of things going on there. In terms of lighting, but I may have a minority opinion, so maybe I just want to kind of pause there.
I have a question about the gas lantern. This is a walkway, and it's to better light the walkway. Is that correct?
I think that's a tangential benefit. I think that it was trying to sort of anchor the corner of the building and just create something that was creating general ambiance.
Okay. I like it at the Patton Room. I think those gas lights sort of mark an entrance. It's grand. It's really beautiful on the street. I don't know about the corner. That's my only question. I don't have any issues with the other lights. I think the lights on the sign work fine, and I don't know what else you could do to have the egress to meet the code and sort of not have a big statement over the doors. My only question is, does it have to be a gas light on the corner? Maybe that's part of your brand. Maybe that's tying in with the Patton Room.
Again, as I mentioned previously, if the general consensus is that that complicates the aesthetic and the process, then you're not going to get a lot of pushback from me on that. So again, if the general consensus is that it just doesn't make a lot of sense, then I think that's an acceptable answer, and I understand that.
I would agree with Robin on this one. I think that the building doesn't, it sort of adds character. It's a character, it's kind of defining thing, and I don't think this needs any more character. I think it's got
There are a lot of characters in this building.
Yeah, I think it's better if it just stands on its own and doesn't have a big gas light to make it historic.
Does it make it easier for the board for me just to pull that request back?
It makes it a little faster, I think, probably.
Yeah. Well, then I'm happy to not petition for item number 4.
Okay. And that allows us to vote on the lighting. If we have a motion to do that, it would be the motion to accept, because we accepted the sign with the sign lighting, it actually just be a motion to accept the egress lighting over the 3 doorways that we have now accepted. And do I have a motion for that?
I move we approve the contemporary transom lighting. Is that what you call it?
It is a wall. Go ahead.
I'm sorry, I thought it was the wall mount lights above the doors. Is
Yeah,
that-
it's the wall mounted light. Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Do we have a second for that?
I'll second.
All right, thank you, Elizabeth. Any other comments or questions about this approach?
I think we can accept it too with Carolyn's point that it be on the condition that the light be a temperature that's sympathetic with the sign lighting.
So I'm losing track here. Did you make the original motion, Arthur? Well, at any rate, we're amending the motion. Essentially, it would amend the motion to say
I make the
with
motion
the 2700 color temperature.
right with the condition that the temperature not be conflicting with the. Carolyn could express this better than me. She made the point that it be not a harsh white that looks foreign and exaggerates the fact that it's a contemporary fixture that's trying to, as John says, not be conspicuous, but be something that is, unnoticed.
Right, we want them to be the same color rendering.
Right, if they were a harsh white lighting, then it would jump out as being, a modern fixture that was slapped on a historic building. That's all.
So that would effectively be an amendment to the original motion saying we want to accept the 3 wall-mounted lights with the specification that they are a warm color, like it was the number, we were talking about 2700, I think, right? Is that good, John? Is that?
Yes, that's fine. That's
That
acceptable.
makes sense to you? Okay. Is it okay if everybody okay if we rephrase the motion that way?
It's not going to affect the compliance with the code, right?
No.
No, if we could just maybe specify just a warm light,
Okay,
I think that sort of keeps me away from,
not getting that right light bulb or something, yeah.
you
Yeah.
got it.
Okay.
That's good.
Yeah, I think is that okay with everyone to specify a warm, that we're accepting these 3 lights, of course, lit the same all the way across, with a warm temperature, a warm color temperature.
Warm.
Correct.
Since Elizabeth had the second, she would have to agree to the amended motion.
I agree to the amended motion.
Well done. Okay, so we now have this amended motion. Is there any more discussion? All right, so once again, going in a roll call, Caroline?
Approve.
And Arthur?
Approve.
Julie?
Approve.
I vote to approve. Elizabeth?
Approved.
Okay, so we have now approved the wall-mounted lighting with the specification that attention be paid to a warm choice of color temperature. Have we done them all?
We have. My only question for you is something I asked previously, and that is there any action needed on the ARB's part regarding the removal of the electric meter from the front facade?
We could just make an action just to be sure. Would someone want a motion that we would love to say we would love to see that removed if possible? I'll make a motion saying that if that can be removed from the exterior, we would approve its removal.
Great.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, Caroline. Okay, and a vote, Caroline
Approve.
and Arthur,
Approve.
Julie.
Approve.
I vote to approve. Elizabeth.
Approved.
Excellent. So you don't have to come before us to get permission to get that done. You just need the easement now, and the
Thank you.
$4,000. So
You just make one clarification.
sure.
That was for the electric meter. Is there any possibility, John, of gas meter or anything else being removed?
I am hoping to not have to have a gas meter, but that's still
Ah.
being worked out. And by getting rid of the gas lantern, that certainly helps move me in that direction, which is part of the reason I'm not heartbroken about the gas lantern.
Yeah.
So then the only other thing that leaves is sort of water heaters and how we heat water, but we're only dealing with 3 rooms. So to answer your question, I'm hoping to make it go away.
Would we like to give the applicant the flexibility and not have to come back and allow conditionally or contingent that he could remove the gas meter and any other utilities from the front of the building if it suits his design?
Yes, and that's going to serve as my motion. That we can, if the applicant is able to remove utilities from the front of the building to suit design, that's my motion, that I would say we should say, we would approve that without a further presentation of an application. Do you have a second?
Second.
Okay, great. And then once again, with the roll call voting, it's so great, life over Zoom. Caroline,
Approve.
Julie,
Approve.
Arthur,
True.
I approve. Elizabeth.
Approve.
Okay, yeah, thanks. Thanks, Arnie. That's helpful, I think, for everyone. John, any other questions while we're all together but not?
No, well, first and foremost, as always, I thank the board. An hour and 15 minutes is a lot of everybody's time, but I think we got a lot done, and I'm looking forward to this being a positive addition to downtown Lexington, and I know the owners are excited as well. So thank you.
Yeah, well, we really appreciate you working with us and coming back again and bearing with our process. And I'm looking forward to seeing it. I think it'll look great.
Good.
All right.
Well, thank you. I'm going to sign off unless anybody
right.
needs me.
All right. Have a great evening.
Yeah.
Thank you. Same to y'all.
All right. Bye. All right. Now we have other business. It is 5:45, so just noting that. Is there any pressing other business at the moment? If that's not the case, I would move that we adjourn.
I'll second.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Caroline?
Aye.
Arthur? Julie?
Aye.
Aye, Robin. Aye, Elizabeth, I think, right? All right. That is wonderful. Great. Thank you. Thank you to Bonnie. Thank you, Arnie. Thank you, everybody. We did it
Thank
again.
you.
All right. I will see you around from a distance.
Okay.
Thank
Take
y'all.
care,
Y'all have a good
everyone.
evening.
All right,
Bye-bye.
bye.